All right. Well, I'm seeing that it is the top of the hour, so we'd like to go ahead and get started. We welcome each of you. Today, the topic of our webinar is to do an overview of our Community Heart and Soul Coach Training Program. And I'm Joan Wagner. I'm one of your three hosts today. I'm joined by Sarah Leitner, our Senior Director of Training, and Jane LaFleur, our Senior Director of Market Development. All three of us will be kind of sharing the stage today and contributing to this presentation. And we'd just like to start with some basics. We're so thrilled at the incredible level of interest we've received about our coach program, and happy to have you here today. Since we have so many participants, we're using a presentation style, so all attendees will be on mute throughout, but we definitely invite you to use the chat function to interact with us. As I said earlier, the default is host and panelists, so if you want to change that to everyone, that way you'll be able to interact with us and share with all participants. We hope you don't run into any technology issues today, but if you do, let us know in the chat or email info@communityheartandsoul.org. We've also put that link in the chat if you need to search for it and find it throughout the presentation. So what are we doing today? Well, we have three segments to this informational session. We want to begin by just talking about who we are and what we do as an organization, and dive in a little bit to how the Community Heart and Soul model works. Next, we want to talk about how coaches fit into Community Heart and Soul, what role they play, and details about our coach training program that's starting this summer. Then we want to kind of round that out with hearing from two active heart and soul coaches about their experience with both the training program and what it's like to work in a heart and soul town. And we'll do plan to end with a Q&A session, so feel free to put questions in throughout. We probably won't be answering many questions as we're going, but we'll keep track of them. And then as we near the end and get to the Q&A, we'll be kind of popping those back out, especially if something didn't get answered along the way. So that is our plan. With that, I would like to pass it over to Jane LaFleur, who will start us out.
Great, thanks, Joan. I'm Jane LaFleur. I'm a Senior Director with Community Heart and Soul, and I'm also a Heart and Soul coach. I want to tell you a little bit about the origins of Heart and Soul. Community Heart and Soul is a nonprofit organization, and we work to build stronger and healthier and more economically vibrant small cities and towns across the United States. In addition to promoting the Community Heart and Soul model, our organization trains and supports a nationwide network of certified Community Heart and Soul coaches who provide training and guidance to the local communities. The seed for Heart and Soul was planted by businessman Lyman Orton, who with his three sons is the proprietor of the Vermont Country Store. Orton served on his town's planning commission when it was wrestling with divisive proposals, and he grew frustrated that the decisions that were being made and that would shape the town's future were without guidance from the majority of the residents. And he realized there had to be a better way, one that reflected the hopes and dreams and ideas of the entire community, not just the few who regularly attended planning commission meetings. Funded through the profits from the Vermont Country Store, Orton created a nonprofit organization with a mission of establishing a community development process that engages all the voices within a community to determine what matters most to the people who live there and use those ideas and aspirations as the blueprint for future decision-making. Our organization works hard to stay in touch with our communities that are numbering well over 100 across the country. We are an agile and dynamic organization, and we're always working to adapt and improve. We welcome suggestions and comments and recommendations to continuously improve our program. Community Heart and Soul is a resident-driven process that engages the entire population of a community to identify what they love most about the town, what future they want for it, and how to achieve it. Heart and Soul is designed for small cities and towns with populations between 2,500 people and 30,000 people. The process can be initiated by local residents, by government officials, or community-based organizations, and it needs all of those groups engaged along the way. There are 3 principles to Heart and Soul: involve everyone, focus on what matters, and play the long game. Involve everyone. This means that the Heart and Soul team learns how to connect to all folks in the community, how to find the missing voices. And they use a story gathering, listening, and sharing approach to do this. Through stories and interviews, the community learns what matters most to the residents. Focus on what matters. This is when the Heart and Soul town successfully identifies and articulates what matters most to residents, and they are poised for a successful future, guided by what matters most. And play the long game. Community Heart and Soul is a way to give local leaders a better understanding of what matters to residents and to use that information to make better decisions at the town level. I want to briefly describe the 4 phases of Heart and Soul. Heart and Soul is a 4-phase, step-by-step process that brings together the residents to identify and honor the unique character of their town and the emotional connection of the people who live there. In phase 1, Imagine, the Heart and Soul teams are formed to build awareness and interest and commitment from all segments of the community. A community network analysis, which is a tool developed by our organization, identifies who lives and works and plays in the town. It identifies all the organization and the populations and the groups of people and how to connect them, including the hard to reach organizations and hard to reach groups. And it's used over and over throughout the process. Connect. This is when stories are gathered from residents that lead to the development of Heart and Soul statements that identify what matters most and reflect what people love about their community. In phase 3, Plan. Residents develop action plans to guide future town planning and decisions based on those Heart and Soul statements. And in phase 4, Act. The Heart and Soul statements are officially adopted by town and city councils, incorporated into comprehensive plans and other plans, and they're used to guide future policies and decisions. And in addition, the action plan is adopted and implementation starts by the residents, the organizations, and the community. The real work of Heart and Soul begins upon the completion of the 4 phases. Community Heart and Soul is an ongoing practice that provides municipal officials with a clear understanding of what matters most to the residents, all of the residents, and it forges a partnership that builds on the first thing that everyone has in common. They all live here. We've seen many outcomes as a result of Community Heart and Soul, a range of social and economic benefits. Pride and confidence in the town increases. Civility and respect increases. Residents feel more connected to one another. Volunteerism has increased and new young leaders have emerged. Residents honor the importance of history and culture. Economic conditions have improved and new local businesses have opened. Most importantly, town officials gain a deeper understanding of what matters to residents. As I noted already, the real work of Heart and Soul begins after the completion of the 4 formal phases. Heart and Soul is an ongoing practice that provides municipal officials with a clear understanding of what matters most to the residents. Heart and Soul becomes embedded in the long-term work of the community, whether it's in master plans and comprehensive plans, whether it's in budget documents or strategic plans that are used every day. It's embedded in town government. Heart and Soul also results in a community-driven action plan that guides residents and organizations on projects that make the town a better place, and they're created and carried out by the residents. Before I turn this over to my colleague, Sarah Leitner, I want you to know about our $10,000 matching seed grant for small cities and towns to start the Heart and Soul process. This provides the beginning funds to launch the program and to get started on solid footing. And that information is available on our website. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah Leitner. Thanks.
Thank you, Jane. And now that you've heard about the Community Heart and Soul model, I'd like to tell you about our coach training program, which prepares coaches to guide communities through the Heart and Soul model. So let's start by answering the question, who are Community Heart and Soul coaches? And first and foremost, coaches are community development professionals, people who are dedicated to improving small cities and towns. And in our group of coaches, we have independent consultants, we have staff of nonprofits and community foundations. We even have landscape architects and town planners, technology professionals, people who work for state and regional organizations, and even a few former Main Street directors. The background and the experiences that these coaches have brought into their work as community heart and soul coaches has prepared them for this role and for their successful participation in our training program. And next, what does a heart and soul coach actually do? Coaches play a really important role in supporting a community's heart and soul work as a trainer, a facilitator, a consultant, and also as a promoter of the heart and soul model. Heart and soul coaches use our comprehensive curriculum to teach the model in communities and work with volunteer teams. Coaches also facilitate trainings and help guide heart and soul teams through the model and beyond as communities prepare for the ongoing practice of community heart and soul. And on this slide, you see a photo of a heart and soul coach in action. And he's meeting and working with residents in their community space. And that is really what this work is all about. It's about connecting and working with the community. Heart and soul coaches also promote the model to prospective communities. We provide the materials and the guidance and the support as coaches use their networks to spread the word about community heart and soul. When you join us as a heart and soul coach, you're helping to create lasting change in communities that goes long beyond the heart and soul model itself. Working directly with heart and soul teams in their communities is something that all of our coaches say is one of the best and most meaningful parts of this work. As a heart and soul coach, you'll learn new skills that will enhance your work in the field of community development. We'll show you creative strategies and useful tools that are part of the community heart and soul model. Being a heart and soul coach also gives you the opportunity to market your services to small cities and towns. That's a great way to expand your income through coaching heart and soul communities. And our training staff is experienced in the field of community development. Our instructors have worked in town planning, in community visioning, instructional design, facilitation, and lots of other relevant fields. You're joining a professional network of coaches that spans the United States. Heart and soul coaches are a friendly and welcoming group who share ideas and resources and support each other in this work. And now we'd like to show you a short video that will help you learn a little bit more about what heart and soul looks like in a community. And this is a community that started the heart and soul process last year, and they're now in phase 2. So in this video, you'll hear team members from Winchendon, Massachusetts, talk about how our Sea Grant opportunity, which Jane just talked about a little bit ago, helps them get started with heart and soul. And they also talk about why having a dedicated heart and soul coach is important to them and their process.
The town of Winchendon is a small, tight-knit rural community in north central Massachusetts. We have a rich history in mills and industry. At one point, we were the top toy manufacturer in the whole world.
Winchendon is a really small town, which is not always everyone's cup of tea, but it means that you're in a small little community. You can walk down the street and see your neighbor.
The thing that I like about it is that everyone kind of knows each other, everyone looks after each other.
As a community, we have had our fair share of challenges, and we still do. Residents say that they don't have much of a voice in town. So we knew we needed a different structure, a much more innovative structure to bring people together. And that's what we loved about Heart and Soul, was that it was all about us going to where the people are.
I first got involved in the Heart and Soul process through the initiative that I work with called Heal Winchendon. We came across Community Heart and Soul, and it really aligned with what we were trying to already do in Winchendon, but took it a step further through like an organized process.
The Community Heart and Soul Seed Grant has allowed us to connect with a coach and to contract a coach for our town that is leading us through this Community Heart and Soul process. And the process itself is the project, because we've had lots of projects in town and they don't succeed or they're not sustained because the community is not behind it. And the role of this coach and the Seed Grant is to build up that trust and that community buy-in and ownership of whatever we do so that it lasts and it really represents our community. So having our own personal coach for a town is invaluable. The Community Heart and Soul Seed Grant also provided funds to get people to the table by providing resources for childcare or workshops or events that we could do with our community to create spaces that were welcoming and accessible to all of our residents. So here in Winchendon, we are in phase 2 of the Community Heart and Soul process. We were awarded the Seed Grant and created our core team and did our community network analysis, and now we're about to present to our Board of Selectmen and launch into phase 2, doing interviews and story gathering with our residents. One of the differences that we've seen with the Seed Grant so far is a shift in outlook about our community. Winchendon has typically been defined by its problems, and just getting folks together on our core team and these sub-teams has already changed the outlook from one of problems to one of possibility. We've also empowered a lot of residents to not just talk about their hopes and dreams for the town, but also to take action.
So everyone is finally, I think, for one of the first times on the same page and invested in moving Winchendon in a positive direction forward. It's really become more of a collaborative initiative and a more collaborative experience in town. Another great thing that has kind of come through the Community Heart and Soul is also hearing like the youth voices kind of amplified.
I wanted to get involved with process and really get involved with my community as a whole, because I wanted to make Winchendon a town that kids that come after me can enjoy living in.
It's not rocket science, it's the community, but getting people together, creating spaces for people to actually participate and make decisions is what needs to happen, and Community Heart and Soul is paving the way for us to do that.
I love how community-driven the Heart and Soul process is. The flexibility, the commitment of residents, and how inclusive we can make it. There's something in it for everyone. For all ages, all demographics, from all walks of life. It's something for the entire community.
We really love this video of Winchendon and all the really positive messages it shares. Miranda talked about the process itself being the project, the emphasis really on the youth involvement in Winchendon and with their community heart and soul work, and the shifting of the discussion about problems to one of possibilities. And we encourage you to go to our YouTube channel to view other videos that we have from other communities across the United States and other residents to see what they're doing to tell their community heart and soul story. All right, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Joan now, who is going to talk more about the specifics of the Community Heart and Soul Coach Training Program.
Thanks so much, Sarah. As you're probably starting to tell, we believe in local capacity building, local decision-making, and local solutions. We like to ask, what is special and unique about each community, and what is it that the community can do for themselves? We help by providing the tools, the guidance, and our experience working with communities all over the country. And we invite professionals such as each of you tuned in today to serve as coaches to walk alongside towns in that effort. So that's where our training program comes in, and here's how it works. We have a 2-part design. Candidates begin with a 12-week virtual training series and then move on to a guided field experience, working directly with the Heart and Soul community. The training in level 1 is all about providing the knowledge base for the Community Heart and Soul model. basically familiarizing you with the tools and techniques that we've developed. So you'll learn the ins and outs of the model and how it all works to deepen resident engagement in community decision-making. You'll also learn about how the coach role fits into the community's process with Heart and Soul. So the level 1 training is designed to give you this ability to go out and confidently talk to communities about Heart and Soul, to introduce it to them, to help them determine if it's a good fit, and then to assist them in launching the program in their community with you as their coach. The level 2 training serves as a kind of practicum. As you coach a community through Heart and Soul for the first time, we provide ongoing guidance and support. You'll have access to the Heart and Soul training staff and all of our materials. You'll also become a part of our nationwide community of practice where you can learn from and network with other coaches across the country. So let's take a closer look at the design for our level 1 training. Here you'll see the series has 3 components, which allow you to participate and learn wherever you are in the country. One component is a series of online learning modules that you do on your own time and at your own pace. The content of these lessons focus on learning how the community Heart and Soul model works. Things like what makes it unique as an approach to community development? How do the 3 core principles of Heart and Soul play out in the program? What's happening in each of the 4 phases? What are communities doing each step of the way? And what are the tools that support the principles and activities of Heart and Soul? A second component is a series of live workshops where everyone in the training program tunes in at the same time on Zoom. The focus of the live sessions is how to take what you are learning in the online modules and apply it in a community as a coach. These sessions will be interactive and a place where you can ask questions, talk with others, and try out for yourself many of the tools and techniques that make the Community Heart and Soul model unique. We also invite many guest speakers from Heart and Soul communities and coaches to share their experience with the program so you can get an insider's view. And the third component is mentorship and collaborative learning. Once you're accepted into the training program, each person is assigned a staff mentor, and you'll meet with this person several times throughout the program. The 3 components are interwoven throughout the 12 weeks. So even though it might appear that this is a linear design, you can expect to be going back and forth between the different components. So for example, you might complete an online module before coming to a live workshop. So now I just want us to take a look at what is the commitment involved in our level 1 portion of the training. So taking into account the 3 main training components I just talked about, we estimate that you'd be investing about 3 to 4 hours per week over the 12 weeks. This could be little less or more depending on your own learning style. The live virtual workshops will take place every week, beginning in mid-August and ending the first week of November. They'll be held on Thursday afternoons, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. And a new online learning module will be released every week or 2 along the same schedule, so you have time to complete the modules before the live workshops take place. So the fee for the level 1 training series is $1,495, and this includes all the online and print course materials that go with the 3 components. So I want to take a look too at our level 2. The guided field experience. So this begins after you have completed the virtual training series and have a committed community to work with. There is no fee for this portion of the training program. So once again, there are 3 components. The main thing you'll be doing here is performing the roles of a Heart and Soul coach in a community. This is where you're guiding the community team through the different phases of the process, from getting them started through to phase 4, and which can take 18 to 24 months. You'll not only be directly training the team in the model, but also serving as an advisor, an advocate, and a cheerleader along the way. The second component consists of regular calls with our Heart and Soul staff to prepare you for, say, delivering phase workshops to your Heart and Soul community. It's also a great place to exchange ideas about what's going on in the community you are coaching, to troubleshoot challenges, and basically to keep positive momentum going. Overall, you'll find that the concept of collaborative learning is an essential part of our training program. That's why we created a national community of practice. This provides a shared space for coaches to network with and learn from each other. What we love about our coaches is how they each bring a different set of life and professional experiences to their work with communities. And we get to witness that every day, the positive synergy and creativity that happens when they're together and can share ideas and support one another. The third component you see here is tracking and evaluation, and that's simply about keeping track of the progress in your community, as well as taking advantages of opportunities to receive feedback on your coaching. So now I'd like to turn to some coach perspectives. And now you have a kind of an overview of what to expect. I'm really happy to be able to turn it over to two of our certified coaches to have them talk about their experiences with our training program and how being a heart and soul coach fits into their professional lives. First, we're going to hear from Cassie, who is a community engagement officer and a heart and soul coach with the Finley Hancock Community Foundation. In the past few years, the foundation has supported 2 communities in Ohio with both grant funding and coaching. They are now just about to bring on a new heart and soul community this summer, and Cassie will be coaching their community. Then after Cassie, we'll hear from Ian Moran, who is currently coaching 2 communities in New Jersey. That's Salem and Willingboro. He's also working with respective community in upstate New York. So as they are talking, feel free to put questions into the chat so we can include them when we get to our Q&A period. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can bring them on. Okay. Hi, Cassie.
Hello. So thanks for having me today. This is hopefully be very fun for all of us, and I hope everyone's learning lots. Last year, I made the shift from working for Ohio State University Extension as a 4-H youth development educator and came on board at the Community Foundation. And with that change, I get to serve our communities, and one of those ways is as the heart and soul coach. So that's a little bit different of why I do heart and soul coaching, right? It's part of my job description. As Joan was mentioning, the Community Foundation here in Hancock County has been very supportive from early on of the heart and soul process. We were one of the early partners, and have worked with different size communities throughout our county, some bigger, some smaller, but a lot of times under that 1,000 mark, and have made it work really well. So just as you're thinking about the different communities that you're working with. My background is youth development, and working with volunteers and working with our kids, helping them grow. So facilitation and working with people is something that I really find joy in. And so heart and soul is just a really great link for me. When I was taking the level 1 certification, I learned a lot. I'm not from a community development background. I'm from a people development background, and there's lots of different pieces and parts that interweave and work really well together. But it was really interesting being part of that cohort and learning from each other, people's different experiences. A lot of folks from a community development background or from a totally different kind of background was really exciting and a great way for me to learn. I think the other piece that really makes me excited about the community heart and soul process, as well as being a coach, and that overall experience in becoming a certified coach, was all that relationship development. And now getting to put it into practice as we are approaching our not only 3rd but 4th communities. We're going to be doing a staggered approach. We had 2 communities that we felt were really ready to go. So we'll be starting one this year and one next year, and you guys are learning that hot off the presses. So that's something that we're getting ready to work on. But that building relationships and with the cohort and also with the staff, that mentoring part of the training is really crucial. And we love the relationship that we have with the community heart and soul staff and that mentoring portion of it here at the foundation. So if you're thinking about this and some thoughts and advice that I would have, be ready to learn some new things, to maybe approach some things in a different way. One of the things I really like about Community Heart Soul is that you're walking with people. You're not talking at them, that you're talking with them and working with them along the way and serving in that facilitator and coach role versus maybe being so much the doer. So it helps evaluate your skill sets and think about where your passions really lay and where your where you can help and really be that true coach. So that's a pretty cool part. When you're thinking about this overall process from, different pieces to consider, that time commitment when you're going through a training or certification, if you haven't done one of those in a while, setting aside the time to do the homework and think about giving yourself time to process and really take all that good information in, and then think about how you're going to work with others to talk about and work through it again. It's some time out of your day and some of your schedule, but well worth it. And once again, very highly supported. Love the portal. Love all of the support materials that Community Heart and Soul provides. So, I think big picture wise, the foundation here is very supportive of Community Heart and Soul, and we will continue to support that because we're seeing the value of it pay back and folds into our community, and has developed some other opportunities that we've been able to help fund and support. And that's been a really great way to reach out not only from our population pocket of Findlay, Ohio, but all the way out to all of our eight different communities that are throughout the county. So that is my part.
Thank you, Cassie. And now I'd love to have Ian share his perspective.
Thanks, Joan. Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Moran, and I moved to the United States in 2010. Lived in the UK before then, worked for about 15 years in higher education. I used to provide advice to students in things like housing and education, finance, immigration law. And before I moved to the United States, I transitioned into the technology field to work as a web developer. And the main reason I did that was that I wanted to be able to work from home because at the time I had young children. I wanted to be close to their school and be available to them if I needed them. So yes, when I moved to the United States, I was working in that field. Also within my community, I volunteer. I'm a coach and a board member for my local youth soccer association, and also volunteer in various organizations with my school districts and other community groups within my town. So the reason why I came into Heart and Soul and decided I wanted to be a coach, actually, I found out about Heart and Soul through a grant opportunity from the Community Foundation in South Jersey. They were looking for communities in my region to go through Heart and Soul. And so I found out about this and thought, wow, this is amazing. I'd love for my town to be able to go through Heart and Soul. As I said, I'm active in my community, but I always felt that there was more that my community could achieve if people worked together more. And so obviously the idea of involve everyone in Community Heart and Soul really appealed to me. So I applied with people within my community. I gathered everybody I could within my community to put this grant application together. And we were successful. And so that was amazing for my town. But at the same time, I found out about through a Facebook ad that Community Heart and Soul were looking for new coaches as well. And, my past experience of working in higher education, advising students and working with people, I just thought this was a fantastic opportunity and just came at the right time for me. My children were older and I really wanted to get out again and be with people on a more regular basis rather than being behind a computer screen most of the time. Obviously, I became a coach in March 2020, just as the pandemic started. So getting out and meeting people didn't work out as I hoped until now, but it was such an amazing opportunity to become a coach and work with other communities. I just had to grasp it with both hands. So in terms of what I've learned with Community Heart and Soul and as a coach, I'd say I definitely have a renewed appreciation of other people and also different points of view. Like everybody, it's really easy just to stay with people that you agree with or people that are like you. And Community Heart and Soul really forces you to challenge that and find out about other people and appreciate other people for their views and their beliefs. And so I really enjoy that. And it's definitely allowed me to grow as an individual. I'm also learning lots about data management techniques, group dynamics, all of the types of things that you'll learn as a coach that you then take into your community. You can use those skills yourself in your wider life. And the new learning hub that has recently been introduced by the staff of Community Heart and Soul is an invaluable tool. And I really enjoy using that and learning from that myself and then taking it into my community. In terms of advice for anybody thinking about becoming a coach, I would say, first of all, don't discount yourself. I didn't come from an obvious route into being a heart and soul coach. Yes, I'm a soccer coach, but that's a very different type of coaching. Yes, I'd worked with students before in diverse groups, but even so, you wouldn't immediately think that I should be a community heart and soul coach, just looking at my resume. So I would say, like I say, don't discount yourself. Think about all the life skills that you can bring to community heart and soul, and use them to be a great coach. It's important that we have a diverse group of people working with different communities. So definitely grab this opportunity with both hands. It's been an amazing experience for me for the last 2 years. I'm so pleased that I did it. I can't imagine now not being involved in community heart and soul. So definitely, if you have the opportunity, don't think twice, and definitely applies to be a coach.
All right, thanks so much, Cassie and Ian. There were a number of questions that flew in while we were watching that, but I know we have one little segment of information to share before we go into the Q&A, and Sarah was going to do that. So we'll come back to those questions that we saw coming in so that Sarah can do that. Just let me share my screen one more time. Get this right.
All right. Yes, I'm going to be just going through the timeline a little bit to talk about what's next for all of our dates over the next couple of months. So the first big one is tomorrow, May 13th. You all, as registrants for the webinar, will be receiving an email that has a link to the application, as well as a recording of this webinar, so that you can review this if there are any other things that you wanted to hear about that you maybe missed today. On June 3rd, that's when the online application is due. And just a reminder that there is no fee to submit an application. So we definitely encourage you to do that by June 3rd. And by June 24th, that is when we'll be sending out the letters of acceptance for all the accepted applicants. And by July 13th, that's when we need to have commitment for your participation in the level 1 virtual training series. And that's also around mid-July is when we'll be sending the invoices for payment for the course. And then our first session is on August 18th. So that's when things really start rolling, and we start with our first virtual session of the level 1 virtual training series. So we'll definitely have some time to dive in more if people have additional questions about the application process or anything around this timeline. When we have our Q&A, we did see a few questions come through about that. So happy to answer those as well. In addition, if you have any questions that you want to send to us, feel free to email us at info@communityheartandsoul.org, and we will get back to you with any questions, with answers to any questions that you may have. All right.
Okay, like I said, it sounds like we did have a lot of questions come in. So I'm going to take a look at these, and thank you for everyone, all of our presenters coming back on screen, because I think we'll share them in different ways. So let's see. I think we were going to start with how are coaches matched with the community? Amy was asking that question. So Sarah, do you want to take us through that?
Sure. Yeah, there are a few ways that we match, that coaches and communities get matched together. First of all, if you think back to when we talked about the 4 different roles of a coach, and we talked about coaches promoter, one of the things that Heart and Soul coaches do is they promote the model to communities, and work with communities who are potentially interested in their area. So that's one way. Another way is that once you successfully complete the level 1 virtual training series, and you can go to our website and see this, we have a web page that has all of our coaches listed by geography so that an interested prospective community can also find you that way through our web page. And also sometimes we have leads from different areas of the US that we potentially can provide to coaches to follow up with communities who have approached us who are interested in connecting with a coach to learn more about the community heart and soul model and get started. So those are just a few ways that can happen.
Okay. And I see 2 questions that recently popped up that I can answer really quickly. So I'm going to do those. So one is, what is the weekly time commitment once the training begins? And what happens if I have to miss a session? Are they recorded? So the weekly time commitment is, well, it's 2 hours a week for the live virtual workshop sessions, but we do say 3 to 4 hours approximately per week, because there are some online learning modules that you do to prepare for the live virtual workshops. So that is our estimate for that. What our coaches, the past have told us that it has taken them for what the different components are. And then in terms of the live virtual workshops, they will be recorded. We do allow kind of a miss of up to 2 during the series, but we still expect people to go back and watch the recording, because everything one builds on the next. So we would definitely want those to come into play. So another question we got, actually, I would love to bring Cassie back into the conversation. There was one about working with, sorry, I'm looking at 2 different places, and I think it was a little further up. So it was specifically for you, Cassie. I thought I had it ready, but I have to find it again now.
Is it the one about sizes?
No, I was going to ask that one too, but you know what? While I'm finding your question, let me ask this one. I thought Jane could answer this one from Allison. She says, my organization works with small rural communities. I'm working with several very small CDPs in Southern Arizona, one with a population of 400 and another of around 2,500. Might the program still be applicable in these communities? And Jane, I was hoping that you can answer that one.
Sure. So in order to receive a Heart and Soul Seed Grant, which is often, as you saw in that video, the way a Heart and Soul town starts, we would like you to be between 2,500 and 30,000 population. A little lower, a little higher is the decision of our executive director, but to get a seed grant, you have to be within that range with a little bit of flexibility on either end. Heart and Soul works in all kinds of communities, but we have found that range to be kind of the sweet spot. There's enough capacity in the community. There's enough organizations to get involved. There's a critical group of volunteers that it takes to run a Heart and Soul program. So we know we have had communities that are smaller than 2,500. And they, in some cases, have been very successful. So again, we want to encourage more and more towns to become Heart and Soul towns, and talk to us. We want to see communities take the lead and use this model. So the door is open, and we're happy to talk with you more about it.
Mm-hmm. Great. I did find the question from Annie for you, Cassie. So it is, we are also a community foundation looking to engage with the smaller towns in our county. I'm wondering from Cassie if they determined which communities to work with by using the community readiness inventory, or if they were pre-selected by the foundation. Now, not everyone may be aware of what she's referring to when we say the community readiness inventory. That's a particular tool, a guide that we have in what we call our getting started materials that helps. There's a series of like 5 kind of conversations and activities, exercises that communities can go through to learn about heart and soul, but also to see if it's a good fit, to see if they're ready. So the community readiness inventory is one of those tools. So Cassie, if you want to answer that question.
Sure. So the Findlay Hancock County Community Foundation is all in on heart and soul, to the point where part of my job description here as community engagement officer is to be a coach for that, as well as the communities that are selected receive 100% funding, give or take a few. The community that's selected provides office space and that general upkeep, but we pay for everything if they're selected. To that selection process, there's an application that is completed, and part of that is that inventory readiness survey as the communities are putting it together. We also have asked that they do a community connections piece so they can start thinking about that. So some of those getting started activities, if you dig into some of the resources that are on the website, are where we start when we're putting that application process together. And then that was followed up. In the past, we've done it in different ways. This last selection process, we did interviews with the community teams. They came in, we had nice chats, and really kind of found where their passions were, where their excitement and energy was, and then and made that decision from there. So it's worked really well in our communities and has built some really strong relationships. Findlay's a population of about 35 to 40,000 people. Hancock County is a population of about 75,000 and very rural. Our smallest community, if you're looking at just the village that we did, Mount Blanchard went the last time, and they have 492 people in their village space, plus surrounding area of kids that would participate in the same school district and things like that. So the families buy in. And then probably our largest one that we've done so far was probably pushing close to 2,000 when you looked at the whole region that they did. So we have found and had some really wonderful successes of building relationships, learning about folks and where their needs are, as well as different ways to approach it. So it's been an exciting time in our community for the last almost 10 years.
Thanks so much, Cassie. I wanted to build actually on the answer I gave to a question earlier about time commitment and recordings and things like that. And people have put in the chat, like, what if I'm not here at this time or that time? In our application, there's actually a place we'll repeat what the actual dates are and for you to indicate if there is a particular conflict, so that we're kind of taking that into consideration during the application process. So yes, you can share that. Each can share that on an individual basis if you're going into the application. So there was a question around, is the coaching part-time or full-time? And that's a good question. As you can see by our two guests today, it's kind of different situations. And Sarah was talking too earlier about, the different professional backgrounds that people bring to this. And Cassie happens to be embedded in an organization where it's part of her job description. So I don't know if you would consider it. So it's probably part-time, but part of her full-time job. So there's that. I don't know if you want to say something about that, and we can talk about other.
So my position at the foundation, and mind you, I would say probably it's representative of our community outreach part of my job description. So a third of my position would be dedicated to specifically rural outreach. So this would be a component of that. So third time would probably be the time that I dedicate it, but ebb and flow because we're not always running a community.
Right. And I mean, another way to answer that too is that there are, those who aren't necessarily embedded in an organization in the way Cassie is to support this. Actually, the majority of our coaches are kind of independent consultants and doing it part-time, fitting it in with their other professional work. And it's just one other component of the suite of offerings that they offer as part of that professional work. I don't know if either Sarah or Jane want to build on that or say anything more.
Yeah, or Ian perhaps, because Ian serves as a consultant and working with many communities. And Ian, I am assuming this is almost your full-time work at this point.
Yes. So when I first became a coach, I was still working as a web developer, and I was doing that largely freelance as well. So I was able to juggle things around, in terms of time commitment. As a coach, really your time commitment, you have to fit around the needs of the community you're working with. And quite
Mhm.
often that's working evenings or weekends. So I was still able to work during the day in my what was my full-time job. But yes, certainly as I've taken on new communities, so I'm now coaching 2 and hopefully soon a 3rd, that is now becoming more of my full-time job.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Jillian had asked the question a bit earlier, are there opportunities to watch current coaches in action? For instance, if there was an opportunity to travel to someplace local-ish to visit a community and see what they do. Sarah, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I can just give a couple of examples where, we do find those opportunities for our coaches in training when they're in their level 2 training, to find places where they can shadow or watch a coach in action. We've done that. It was a little bit easier perhaps over the last year and a half, because people were able to come in virtually and attend other coaches' sessions. But there definitely are, it's about making that match with other coaches. And as I talked about a little bit when I was talking about the coach network, one of the things that we do know is that our coaches are, always there to help other coaches and to help in everyone's learning journey as a coach. So that's definitely a possibility.
Great, thank you. We got a number of questions about cost. So even, before the webinar started, we had a registration question come in. I really want to empower underserved rural communities. If I can't afford to pay for the training, is there a scholarship available? So Sarah, I was wondering if you could address some things around or review our fees and costs.
Yeah, sure. I'll just do a quick review of that. So first of all, just to reiterate that there is no fee to submit your application. And then for the course itself, the fee is $1,495. And that is for the level 1 virtual training series. Again, as Joan talked about, that includes the online opportunities, the virtual training series. It includes materials, both hard copy and digital. It includes spending, having conversations with your mentor. Now, we are really looking for good, excited, experienced people who want to be in this role, who are excited about the opportunity to create lasting change in their communities. And we don't want the cost to be a barrier for participation in the program. So we really welcome you to reach out to us and just have a conversation if that would be a barrier to your participation.
All right, thank you. There was another question about costs related to travel expenses to communities. Jane, I was wondering if you might take that one.
Sure. And that means travel during coaching. Is that?
That's how I understood
Yeah.
it.
So whether you are embedded in an organization like Cassie is, or you are an independent coach like Ian is, that arrangement between the coach and the community is between the coach and the community, or the organization like Cassie's and the community. So the coach sets their own fee, or the organization, if they charge for the training, and that is not something that we get involved in. That's between the coach and the community. Some coaches have put into their contract that there is a mileage reimbursement that they want reimbursed. Others have said, that's part of my fee. I will get to that community on my own and don't worry about it. So again, that is between the coach and the community, and that's not something that we get involved in.
Mm-hmm. So a similar question, Jane, is from Vicki. For independent consultants, do the communities pay them directly? Is there a set scale for the services? So I think that kind of rolls into what you're saying.
Yeah, that's the same kind of answer. It is between the coach and the community pays the coach directly for their services. Yes.
Great. It feels like that's getting to most of the questions that I saw there. If I've missed anything, if anyone else could put it in, or if you need to repeat it. Here's one coming in from Cynthia. Can a municipality pay for an employee to receive the training and then implement the program? That's a great question. Sarah, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, absolutely. That can definitely happen. We've had a number of different organizations who have paid for an employee to participate in the program, and then that person becomes a certified coach and is also part of the organization. So it's really a win-win on both parts for that way.
Great. I am seeing one from Christy. It was a really specific one about a region. I currently do not believe that Indiana has community heart and soul communities. Are there plans to expand into Indiana, or would being trained not result in any communities to serve in? Jane, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So, our expansion plans include the whole country, between towns between 2,500 and 30,000 population. So we know there are towns in Indiana that fall into that area, into that range, and we certainly want to see towns in Indiana. So if there was a coach from Indiana that can make connections with communities, and we can, if we start to get leads from Indiana communities, we would funnel them to the coaches, using the many different models that Sarah mentioned to have the coach bring on more communities. Again, it's up to the coach to help find some of these communities, to use their networks of people and places that they know about to help spread and be a promoter of the heart and soul model. As a coach, I believed in this model. I still believe in this model, and I know that it makes a huge difference in the communities that use the model to find out what matters most to the people in the community. So I was always talking about heart and soul, always promoting it, and always trying to find new communities. And that's the same thing that our coaches do across the country.
Thanks, Jane. I have another one for you. Jim just asked, what are significant differences between community heart and soul and Main Street? Another very frequently asked question, and a good one. And Jane,
I can take some of it, and maybe Sarah, if you want to chime in. So a Main Street program, if you're familiar with it, focuses on Main Street and the downtown. One of the most significant differences is that a Main Street program, it has a narrower geographic area. Heart and Soul is town-wide. So that is one of the major differences. A Main Street program also has their own principles that are, economic revitalization, and a certain, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but it's a different model. It's a different process. This model is the 4 phases we talked about, the principles. It's based on story gathering, finding those missing voices, and incorporating that information into the decision making in the community. So it's very different. There have been Main Street programs and Main Street communities that have used Heart and Soul in tandem with their Main Street program very, very successfully. And, they work well together. They play off each other. They often, sometimes there's a coordinator in the Heart and Soul community, and that coordinator either works closely with a Main Street coordinator, or sometimes can be the same person if that Main Street board is willing to go beyond the geographic area of the downtown to do Heart and Soul. We can talk more about that offline if people are interested in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did you want to add anything to that, Sarah? Or
I was just going to add one thing, and then I actually just saw it pop up in the chat as well. And I was going to say that, Main Street and Community Heart and Soul seem to be really complementary to one another, not in competition. Right. And especially the engagement opportunities through Community Heart and Soul really help and work with the Main Street model.
Although I will say that some communities who have been kind of looking at both at the same time, they don't already have a Main Street and they're kind of looking at both. Sometimes it's advantageous to have a certain order to that. We've kind of seen is like if they're doing Community Heart and Soul first, sometimes that then generates the interest, the need, the desire to then to then embark on the Main Street program. So as Jane said, kind of starting more from the general so that the community can determine, is this what the community wants, what they needs? And then there's many other programs out there that might be of interest to communities that they discover that they really want to do because of the heart and soul process and being in discussion with each other. So that's great. I think we're coming to the end here, but I think there's one or two really quick questions that I can answer. What is the granting cycle for the seed grant application? It's rolling. So we're always accepting applications for the seed grant, and we review those every month. So that's the quick answer, but you can go on our website and learn more. Erica had asked, can the program be in any state? Yes, she's in Florida. Can we have it there? Yes, it already is there. There is we have a community that just started a few months ago in Florida, in Quincy. So definitely check us out. We invite you to dig deeper if you have other questions regarding that. We're at the top of the hour, so I just wanted to quickly, if I could, give the last word to Cassie and Ian. If there was, what is the number one reason you would recommend the coach training program to our viewers? Ian, looks like you're off.
Yeah, I'm happy to go first. So I would just say the opportunity to have a positive benefit in the lives of others in communities across the United States is too good an opportunity to miss. So that is always why I would recommend it.
One thing that we've learned through this whole adventure that is COVID is that communication and working together is super important. And one of the things that we found, our CEO is also a community heart and soul coach. And one of the things he found was he knew who to talk to, who to reach out to. And I find that so very important. So that was important to me in the community engagement role. To become a community heart and soul coach is to build those relationships and have that opportunity. And then you also build the relationships with the cohort and the community heart and soul staff. And it's just a really nice circle of ways that you can make an impact.
Well, thanks so much, both to Cassie and Ian, for being our guests today. Thank all of you for tuning in. And as Sarah said, there'll be a follow-up message with a link to the application. And you can always get in touch with us with any questions that we might not have been able to get to today. But thank you, everyone, and take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.